Hey guys, so on this week's edition of Geeky AF, I want to talk about which show was better, The Flash or Arrow. So, Arrow started off shortly after Smallville went off the air. It started an entire universe of comic book shows. For the longest time, it was the standard for comic book shows. It was gritty, it was dark, it was our version of Batman for an entire generation of people because DC would not give us a Batman show. Even when we had Gotham, which was supposed to be, you know, everything you would want in a Batman show except Batman. Every time we wanted, Batman, they'd give us Batman Light. Batwoman, for instance. Everything but Batman. Uh, hell, even Gotham Knights, everything but Batman. To a point. Um, Arrow is a really good show. I admit I went into the show not wanting to like it. I started actually, I'd say probably about maybe three-fourths the way into the first season, and watched an episode. I was like, okay, you know what? I'll go back and watch it. And I went back to the first episode and I was like, man, I am in love with this show. This is great. I love this. There's no superpowers. There's no silly, campy, this is great. This is everything you would want in a Gotham type show. This is really cool. They've got potential future sidekicks with Roy Harper here. You've got, cool, realistic characters. You've got potential, maybe a Black Canary down the road with Laurel Lance. This has so much potential for the future. This is really cool. It was everything you would want in a Green Arrow show. And again, I did not want to like it because I was such a fanboy of Justin Hartley from Smallville, and I loved his incarnation of Green Arrow. But this was not that, not by a long shot. It wasn't even something that I could watch and be like, well, maybe this is a prequel to that. Maybe I could interpret this as a prequel to that and kind of turn my brain off. This was nowhere even near that, which is a good thing because it made me redefine my definitions of being open to, hey, everything should have different interpretations, and that's okay. I had thought that I was okay with that, enjoying Smallville, enjoying Superboy from like the 90s. And watching different incarnations, Batman, for instance. But this, I really was like, wow, this is a great, great show. And this is so anti what I wanted. I did not want to like this. That being said, we then get to The Flash, which again redefined what was already redefined. So it was like lightning struck twice. No pun intended. It was great. It was a wonderful show, and that first season of The Flash, that mixed with the second season of Arrow, that was such a great time to be a CW fan or a comic book fan. It was just some great television. It was. You could not miss a week without feeling like you could kick yourself. You could not capture that time again, I do not believe. The Reverse Flash was who's the Reverse Flash? Who could he be? What is this guy? The creepiness of this villain, the vibe that he gets along. The only time I've ever seen that captured in a villain, that everyone's just like talking about him, wanting to talk about him, just obsessed with him, would be Heath Ledger's Joker. Like, that's how obsessed everyone became with Reverse Flash. Like, you drop that name and everyone's just like, and that's like, it was such a good villain. And Tom Cavanaugh did a wonderful job portraying him. But the fact that none of us knew it until like halfway through the season. I mean, it was, I guess looking back on it, you can kind of see that, but it was just wow. And Deathstroke on Arrow in season 2, it was just like, again, wow, like that. The moment where him, Sarah Lance, and Oliver Queen and Roy Harper all in the mansion, just kind of talking, where Oliver Queen's mom's there, like she's giving him a tour, and they're all just kind of it's kind of like chess, like what do you want to do now? And and he's just kind of he looks at him, looks at her, turns around, looks at Roy, and he's like, "Oh, excuse myself," And they, and it's just like they all just want to whoop each other's ass, and it's such a great moment, And there's so many of those type of moments where it's like, man, if they only were one room over, they'd start fighting. And it's so good. And man, I can feel my smile. And that's how those stories were back then. It was just like it was so good, so good. It's like the early days of The Walking Dead. I was like, man, you just got to talk about it. And to those who watch those shows, you were just like, dude, it's so good. That being said, we got into some dark days on those shows where it's just like, what the fuck happened? Because when you get to the end, at least for me, the end of the show is certainly not where the beginning was. And we'll delve into those because there are several points in the shows where I will talk in the next coming weeks. In the upcoming weeks, I will be discussing those things. And where I feel they went wrong. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel and you'll get those videos. That being said, that's not what this video is about. So looking at what I feel is personally the best 2 seasons of Arrow, because I feel the second season of Arrow's the best for me. And the first season of Flash is the best for me. Which one of the series is better, Flash or Arrow? I really don't know, and I haven't given it too much thought until just now. Like I knew that I was doing this show, but I really hadn't given it much because I didn't want to put too much thought into it because I thought, okay, how are you going to approach this? What are you going to think about it? But thinking of the villain, thinking of like what anticipation was going into it, how you felt at the time, and everything going into it, like it's a tough call because I think the writing on both those shows were top notch, and ooh, it's up there. I mean, you're talking percentages of a point. But I would have to say, I would have to say, I want to say Flash, but I have to give it to Arrow. That writing in that season, it has so much of like I like I like the Flash season 1 better. That's my go-to for when I'm like craving a superhero show and the moments, and I like those they're bigger moments, but the you savor those moments with the guy that plays Deathstroke. I forget his name. You savor those moments. It is so cool. And the writing, I think, is just a little bit more top notch, and the heartfelt and when Oliver loses his mother, and when Roy becomes the sidekick and helps Oliver, and there's so many moments that you've earned, and then at the end when they all fight in the Mirakuru people, and we don't get as many of those in the first season of The Flash because he's still trying to find his footing and everything. And I think season 2 is good in The Flash, but there's a lot of season 2 that's recycled of season 1. So I really think season 1 is the better season. But I really have to give season 2. And again, it's a taste issue. Some people may not agree with me, and that's okay. I'd love to hear you guys' comments and your thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. But I really have to hand it to season 2 of Arrow. I think that is probably for me, hands down, the better season and the better show. I think overall, I think Arrow probably has done the better job. Now, I haven't seen all of the Arrow seasons. I was not a huge fan of a lot of what Arrow did in the latter seasons, and I stopped watching, especially after the Elicity stuff. She got to be really off-putting to me. That relationship got to be very off-putting, and I stuck in as long as I could, but it got to be really bad for me. And the Flash, I really only kept watching out of anger, and me and Josh and I were roasting the show. So it got to a point where both shows, at a certain point, I really kind of turned on the show. But I feel like Arrow. I feel like Arrow was the better show with the writing when it was good, but both shows were top notch. And again, we're talking like, if we were to write down the points and everything, I think that like it would be like percentages of a point. But for me, it's more of a, how did it make me feel in that moment? And I feel like Arrow gave us more of a higher quality earned moments of on writing. But Flash was also really, really good. And again, like, I don't think any one of us were losers in the earlier seasons of those shows, you know. And I mean, damn, it's just good stuff, you know. I would recommend any. I mean, those early seasons, I would recommend anyone, you know. And if you're a fan of either one of those characters, binge watch the whole series. Let me know, you know, what you think. And the thing about it is, like, they did so many interpretations of the characters and variations of these characters and whatnot. Who would have ever thought we would have got so many characters for these shows? And that's one of the great things about the CW, and it's a shame that they are done with that universe outside of Superman and Lois. You know, it's a shame, because I really loved that universe, even though I kind of fell out of love with it. You know, they really did a lot with very little, you know. So, but anyway, I'm gonna have to say Arrow as a series whole, and specifically Arrow season 2, as opposed to the Flash or Flash season 1, which were my two picks, going head to head. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. Comment below. Let me know. And if you like this video, subscribe, like, and you'll get to see more videos. So, all right, guys. And this is the end of the video. Be genuine, be safe, and keep on geeking on, guys.